This is Unwanted Easter Eggs, pressing play in 3, 2, 1, and away we go. This is Game of Thrones. This is the podcast / reaction that absolutely no one is asking for. And as always, I feel like I need to adjust something a little bit. Turn the volume down on my headphone. This is episode 6, A Golden Crown. If you are watching or you want to watch along, you should have pressed play it when I did the countdown of pressing play at the start. I recommend pressing play and then skipping back to the start and then pressing play from there with me. It won't line up exactly the same, but I'm probably not going to be talking about the events on the camera or on the screen exactly as they happen anyway. This was first aired on May the 22nd, 2011, being the 6th episode, as I said, called A Golden Crown. I think we all know what that means. If we've seen this before, we know who's going to get a golden crown later. I'm drinking tea if anyone's curious. It's somewhat late-ish at night here, and I partly wanted to go to sleep, but I said no. The people who don't watch / listen to this podcast really want me to do it. Anyway, in the last episode, Ned got stabbed in the leg by the Lannisters and renounced his Hand of the King position, and a bunch of other stuff happened. Tyrion is in a cell, really quite a smart cell when you think about where they're located in the Eyrie, up on that really tall mountain, and having cells that have got a completely open side to them, so that if the prisoner wants to commit suicide, they can, but they'll have a rough time the whole time. So Ned's finally starting to realise that he should have listened to Catelyn and not gone north. That's not the face you want to see. Imagine that. Imagine seeing your best friend and his puppet master. It would be so frustrating. It instantly makes me think about how, in the current world that we're living in, the American political system is very strange and very strange. Even in that instance, Ned's just like, seriously, you're going to hit her? It's not very nice. And it just makes me think about how, as I've said on every episode of this, even though this is fiction, all politics and power and ruling and all that kind of stuff seems to be a bunch of rich families who have got nothing better to do than to play politics, as it were. It's an interesting bit there where Robert sort of shows a little bit like he's showing how frustrated he is with this position. And he showed it in the last episode, he's showing it in this one, where he's just like, I shouldn't have done that, look at what happens, look at what I have to put up with. think if you've seen what's his name, Nick Eddy. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, they're guest appearances. I don't want guest appearances. I want cast. I think his name's Nick Eddy. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, now I have to do a proper search. Mark Addy. If you've seen Mark Addy in anything else, you realise how good a performance he does. It's so interesting though, like, he's trying to force Ned to be the king, or be the hand, and it's like, dude, if you treated him a little bit better as the hand and listened to him, he wouldn't have thrown it off in the first place. But if you've seen Mark Addy in anything else, in particular The Thin Blue Line, if you can do a search on YouTube for The Thin Blue Line with Rowan Atkinson, Mark Addy in that is such a different character, and he's 20 years younger, and it's an amazing, it's just an amazing performance that he has as the Hand of the King, or as the King. It's just, yeah, it's phenomenal. I'm a little bit worried that this isn't, I've worried myself that it's not recording the way I'd like it to be recording. So instead of talking, I'm going to do a test. They've done a good little swap, or a little transition there from talking about killing her. Now she's experimenting with... Oh, it is recording. There we go. Experimenting with the eggs. I don't think when I first watched this I really put two and two together with all the heat that she deals with. And as we know, like I feel like if you're watching this for the first time, you're seeing this and you're thinking, why wasn't she burnt? That's weird. But if you know more of the lore, and you even know House of the Dragon and stuff, you know that the kinship between the Targaryens and the dragons, and the mystical sort of knowing each other and everything. Little Bran getting to have a walk for once. I'm sure the actor has gotten pretty sick of, or got pretty sick whilst the filming of this was done, that he never got to walk and do anything. Again, this first series really does have all these little strange things, and they all pay off so well. I am yet again jealous of all his furs and stuff on the bed. That would be amazing, wouldn't it? It's, again, there's a friend of mine and I one time had a chat about how a Game of Thrones style game, a GTA Grand Theft Auto style open world game would be really cool in the Game of Thrones world, where you could ride down the King's Road and ride from the Wall all the way down to King's Landing, and you would see a procession of people going past, and if you knew the banners and everything, you would recognise who it was going past. If that game exists and I played that game, I would not want to be one of the royal houses. I would just want to be a guy working at one of the pubs on the King's Road or something like that, go hunting, go fishing every now and again and go back. Like, it just wouldn't be of interest to be, hey, that's Tonks. Nymphadora. Do they really think that it's like it's a sensible thing to would have like to kill him in order to steal everything? Like, as much as they're all like sort of free folk and they can do whatever they want, what do they think's going to come of attacking Starks? Like, doesn't it make, like, it just seems logical to me that you wouldn't do this, because if you did this, the consequences would be crap. It's like attacking police. Regardless of whether you think the police are doing the right or the wrong thing, what are the odds that something good's going to happen if you attack police? I don't know. Seems kind of stupid. But yeah, I wouldn't want to be having to have the questions of, if I was playing the Game of Thrones, to have the questions, have the worry of, we've got to defend our honour and go attack blah 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 because Jaime Lannister put a hole in you. That just reminds me I've got to go shoot my bow more often. Man, I enjoy archery a lot. There's no... But I don't miss decent archery form. I'm no legend, or no legend, it's a silly word. I'm no expert when it comes to archery. The way he's holding it back behind his jaw is a bit wrong though. He hasn't got it anchored down nicely. But admittedly he is up close to someone there, so he's not trying to anchor it so that he can throw it far. Imagine if he'd rolled a bit further and fallen off. The story would have been a fair bit different, wouldn't it? Archery's a really good one in movies to watch for bad archery, because most archers on TV just have not practiced enough. There was one, I think it's Hunger Games, where she's holding it and she's got the string on this side of her nose instead of on this side of her nose. So on the right hand, so if she's right-handed and she's firing from right to left, it's on the outside of her nose, which means that when she lets go of it, the string's going to rip her nose off pretty much. That was a funny one. I remember this little scene where he convinces the guy. He's very smart, Tyrion, as we all know. That's the character. But I remember that scene in the books being quite impressive. The way he does it he convinces Maud. Plus, I remember it being much longer. And it's that interesting thing in this world that death comes so common, like it's so common. Like you think about the death that Ned's seen, and the death that he's given out as well. He's killed people, and death is just such a common thing. Whereas if it wasn't for like the news and stuff on my phone, I wouldn't know very much death. grandparents have died. But that's about it. I've been very lucky. I wonder if she thinks to herself she's like happy that by taking this role she got to learn how to sword fight a bit, or a lot. I watched via a reel or a short or something on my phone the other day the scene in the final season where she spars with Brienne of Tarth. And everyone's like, what the hell? How does Arya know how to fight like that? And I wonder if like she's like a 9-year-old, 10-year-old girl or whatever, and she learns how to fight effectively. Okay, not the scene you're expecting. I don't think I could do that. I really don't. Like, I'm all for science as opposed to your feelings, as it were. Like, I'll eat something gross if I know that scientifically it's going to be fine. Like, raw egg is a really good example. If you haven't quite cooked your egg all the way through, yolk or not yolk, it's not going to hurt you that much if you eat it, especially if it's a fresh, clean egg and stuff. And I know that practically raw red meat is okay, but I don't think I could eat something that was that bloody and that freshly from an animal. That lady reminds me of someone, I think an actress from the 90s in Australia, but I cannot remember the actress's name that I'm thinking of. Is he jealous at this point? I know he doesn't like the fact that he still hasn't... It's so strange, the idea that you've got to eat this, and that's who she reminds me of. She reminds me of somebody, the Sand character, Martell's wife in later seasons. Not Sirio Ferio. Who's Pedro Pascal's character? Can't remember. I think that's the same actress. I think that is the same actress who in later episodes I think that is the same actress that plays Illyria Sand, who is the partner of Oberyn Martell. Dun, dun, dun. They really like, yeah. He's jealous. He's jealous of the fact that they all like her, and that she's living up to the standards of this tribe and stuff, and he's got no attention. This is why I think this is why other podcasts have somebody to look things up. Indaria Varma is the actress's name, and without being too crass, what an absolute stunner. She's 10 years older than me, and I would have no problem with going out on a date or something with her. She is very attractive, but she's been married for a long time. And in 1996, she was in a movie called Kama Sutra. So, that's interesting. That was her debut. It doesn't look like it is the same actress. They're not referencing it, so I was wrong. But they both look very similar. It's true. That's what he does want. If you listen to the podcast The Office Ladies by any chance, they just recently did an episode where they talked about Game of Thrones. They watched the first episode, and it was kind of funny. They talked about Jorah in a positive way, and I'm like, I don't think he's necessarily that positive. Like, he ends completely dedicated to Daenerys and stuff, but there's a reason, quite justifiably, that he is banished when he is banished. He's not always the most honourable. That's fair enough. These things happen. Shut up! I feel like sometimes in this show I find it very interesting how the most noble of characters will be treated like shit at times. For instance, he is in a prison cell, even though he's meant to be like one of the richest men in the Seven Kingdoms. He is such a good actor. Peter Dinklage is... The way he said man just then, I mean, imagine putting... Could you put that much effort or that much emphasis and that much knowledge and emotion in that? And I think I said this in the last episode. You look at Tyrion's storyline. He goes up to Winterfell with his family, and then he's like, I'm going to go as a tourist to the Wall. Then on the way back, he does something nice for Bran, and then happens to stop in at a tavern and get taken prisoner. And now he's in a cell like this, and having to confess his crimes. Again, in front of a heap of candles. I should do some research and look into how many candles and how much was spent on candles just in the production of this show. And who had to go around and light them all. And in between doing each scene, did they have to like blow the candles out so that they didn't burn down too far? Or are they all fake? They could all be just fake. They could all be gas powered, which would actually make more sense. Not sure they look like it though. That was a good delivery by the kid that we established last episode was way too young. It's so interesting that they can put him up on trial and potentially kill him in this situation. Imagine if they said, no, we established that he was a bad guy and we killed him. Again, his family would be like, wait, why? How are you doing that? They really are. It's this weird system of it's the interesting way of justice and stuff that's done in this kind of, I don't know how truthful this was or how based on reality this was. Not necessarily the moon door, but I've always wondered with this moon door, what part of the mountain top are they built on? If the moon door was to the side of this room, I would understand that it was on the edge of a cliff. But why is it in the middle? Or how is it in the middle? Seems very interesting. Oh no, let me do it. They all think that oh, that's who she's sleeping with. Aha. It's such an interesting thing of how could you convince someone to fight for you? And how do you class that as justice, that two people fighting? Like if you've ever watched mixed martial arts or boxing or anything, it's literally like it's always the best man on the day. It's not necessarily, there is no justice in trial by combat. It's just not fair. This is definitely something that I missed the first time watching. That cloak is so silly. If I remember correctly, this scene was made like this because they couldn't afford it. They would have had like a full, like if you watch House of the Dragon, they go hunting and they've got a massive group of people, whereas this one it's just the four of them. But yeah, it definitely passed me by the first time I watched this that he was getting fed wine and that he was getting drunker and drunker. And I think it's a really good, almost a reference to the books, because of the way the books are written from certain perspectives and stuff, we don't see a lot of things happen. We just hear about them. And I like the fact that we see this scene, but we don't see them. We don't see him die, and we just hear about it when they come back. It really is the danger of not being able to be told that you're wrong and always being right, isn't it? It's not really a good idea. They talk about how the throne was meant to be bigger, but I like it the way it is. I definitely like the idea of adding to it with more and more swords, but it's I think it's a good size as it is there. It clearly looks like a throne. Fish. You know perfectly well it is, Littlefinger. And how do you rule such a big land just by hearing from people like that? I'm definitely a somewhat paranoid, skeptical person, so I don't think I'd be good at this kind of thing, because you just have to believe what someone says. Why would he say it like that? He is such a smarmy little bastard. That is not the same actor who plays Lord Beric later, is it? Because doesn't he go, if I remember correctly, well, there's no link there. I do believe that was the actor David Michael Scott. Interesting. I believe Sir Beric becomes, yeah. Lord Beric Dondarrion was Lord of Blackhaven and the head of House Dondarrion, initially assigned by Eddard Stark to apprehend Sir Gregor. He and his men formed a guerrilla resistance group known as the Brotherhood Without Banners, as Dondarrion with their leader. In the war efforts against the Lannisters, Beric was killed multiple times and each time brought back to life by Thoros. So he ends up being killed and then becomes the Brotherhood Without Banners after he has, I guess, a religious awakening when he is revived by the Lord of Light. again, it's one of those things that sort of gets mentioned in the... Everyone's like, what the hell is he doing? But it is that smart kind of thing, in that being Lyle and being able to move quickly and stuff. Because you would get very tired. Isn't it like, I am fighting? What do you think I'm doing? Like... Because you just swinging your sword, and you look at the way he is swinging his sword, it's very big movements. The other night guy. Again, I think I said this in a previous episode. Wouldn't it be interesting if these we had this fight to the death often? Imagine if in Parliament there was a fight to the death, or in a court of law there was a fight to the death like this. It would be interesting if we could include trial by combat in our political systems and our what's it called, in our courts and in our judicial system. Enough survive, as though he's choosing to. Imagine, what's he thinking at this point? He's just been stabbed or cut or whatever, and he's thinking, shit, this isn't going well. Now I'm a little bit screwed. Because that's like serious hurt. That's not just a bit hurt. That's serious hurt. The back of his leg's just been severed. Like, I'm surprised he would actually... I wonder if he would actually be able to get up at that point. Like he's a dead man here. It's... Like... Like, his day, he probably had a nice breakfast. And the next thing you know, he's getting stabbed in the neck and thrown out the moon door. And not only is but he did. That is the funny thing about fighting, is why you would worry about with honor and stuff. I've done a very small amount of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in my life, and whenever I was with a... Whenever I was with an opponent who was annoying me or doing something bad or wrong or just not respectful or something, at least a couple of people were just a little too forceful and that kind of stuff, I always thought to myself, I'm going to just bear it out. I'm just going to ride it out, because that's what you're fighting effectively. Whereas this whole like laws and doing things honorably and stuff, but obviously that was just jiu-jitsu and training and sport. It wasn't life or death. That, I mean, the girl is a teenager at the time, but that was a perfect teenage face, that. Of course she's being rude. She's a teenage girl and she's pissed off at the world. Yeah, you have, you little shit. It's so... Girls, if a guy ever tries to win their favour back after they've done something wrong by just buying you something, don't accept it. Buying jewellery and stuff is not an acceptable apology, as we see in this by how Joffrey does not improve. He is such a legend, that guy. One of the most amazing performances, and then he's just like, okay, no, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. He effectively quit at the top and just went on back to, and I heard somewhere that he went to a small town and he was doing like amateur theatre. Imagine that. Imagine him coming and doing amateur theatre with you. Oh God, I hate it. Because for her it's perfect. And she does, again, she plays it so well as well. She just looks so enamored with him and so believing in his words. This is one of those scenes that has become memed so much, and it's he is such a dick. But he's a good example of his upbringing, because he was taken away from his family at a young age and became a ward, where it was like he was sort of a brother and sort of not. So he's got this whole why isn't she wearing anything under that? Like some shorts underwear or something. That would be a pretty trip all the way down to King's Landing, or to the boat that she gets on. Don't know why we had that scene. I feel like that's one of those scenes where it's just some titillation and stuff. I love the fact that neither of them wanted to come to King's Landing, and now they don't want to leave. Even though, like, it's forced marriage and forced relationships and stuff like that, it's still the same feelings, isn't it? It's still what we feel as teenagers, where we're madly in love and our emotions have taken over and all that kind of stuff. In that she can't imagine anything without him, and she's just obsessed, and everything's perfect, and now it's just terrible because she has to be a queen and have babies and all that shit. Yet or two earlier, she would have been like, no, that's gross, I don't want to do that. It's a shame books aren't like this, although you can buy books like this, but it's a shame books aren't like this anymore. And again, I know that when I first watched these episodes, I missed things. And this is one of the things that I missed. I didn't get it. I didn't get the whole lack of hair. Like, even though that's kind of obvious, like, and we know that the siblings are doing it, it still didn't twig to me for some reason. Maybe I'm just not observant like that. I don't pay enough attention. And now the scene with which we get the title of our episode. Another party. Everyone's having fun. He's had a couple of drinks and he's going to act like a fool. Jason Momoa got to have a pretty good character with this, didn't he? He didn't have to do much. Like, a lot of his work was to stand there and stand and watch kind of thing. Hello, it's me! What? Again, like I said before, if you attack the police, what do you expect's going to happen? Doesn't matter if the police are doing the right or the wrong thing. And it's a very smart thing that sword looks like the kind of sword of... Like, it almost looks like a toy, like a ceremonial sword, more than a real sword. There's always a limit, and you have to sum up where your limit is as to what consequences are going to come from that. I've never done anything... I've never been in a situation as serious as this. Technically, his eyebrows should be blonde, shouldn't they? Or white. And it's so interesting, again, if we've watched House of the Dragon, to know that these are the ancestors of those guys. He's so unsure of... Oh, this guy plays it really well as well, because he's not... He plays all the emotions and the fact that this guy is a fragile... He didn't have a leader. Like, he was told, you're the dragon, you're going to be king, and he acted like an absolute dickhead the whole time. There is absolutely no way that fire would melt that gold. I don't care what kind of shitty gold it is. I believe it needs to be much hotter to burn gold. That's ridiculous. And that quickly too. Apparently this is true. This happened, or this is based on a truth. Much like the Red Wedding is based on truth. That is very well done, the way it landed and didn't move. There was no bounce. And the way that noise. It's a good point. Again, the fire and the heat and all that kind of stuff that I never picked up on as the first watch through. Anyway, that was episode 6, A Golden Crown, and we saw the Golden Crown at the end there. Tune in next week or next time for episode 7. I'll get round to it eventually. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and I'll see you next episode. Goodbye.